In a world crying out for a top 10 show, John Roca and Matt Nost are here. So grab your assigned seat, sit back, and enjoy this week's Top 10. Brought to you by the Schmoes Know Network. Take it away, boys. Welcome, everybody, to this week's Thunderdome.
Thunderdome.
This was a fun one. You reached out to me, and I was like, I feel like Stallone. And then you were like cool with it, and then there was a bunch of things we kicked around. Oh wait,
Yeah.
I'm John Roca.
I am Matt Nost.
This is the Top 10 podcast, Thunderdome. Again, so we were talking about it, and I didn't want to suggest Rocky because I know you're not a big fan of Rocky, and if that got selected, you wouldn't be as committed.
I offered up Creed because I hadn't seen it.
Oh yeah,
I also like Over the Top was a possibility for me.
Over the Top.
I like that movie. It's so awful.
But we would put that up against Lockup, don't you think? The two cheesy Stallone movies that would have been perfect.
Or I just pick another cheesy 80s Stallone and put it up against
Yeah.
Over the Top, and it's
Rhinestone?
just no. That Over the Top destroys that. Are you kidding me? Destroys it. I'd be impressed if Rhinestone got 20% of the vote.
Yeah, I agreed. I did a podcast months ago about Rhinestone. It was the worst experience watching that movie. I'd never seen it. And I had to watch it for the podcast. It was the worst.
The clips I've seen of it alone,
It's so bad.
and they're the clips describing how awful it is, and you're like, no, this isn't, because I don't have that attachment to Stallone like some guys do, because he was he was in the 80s,
do, yeah.
but I was more of an Arnold guy.
Gotcha.
To me, it was Stallone or Arnold. I liked Arnold better. I watched
Right.
more of his movies.
He's more. Would you say he's more? Arnold was more consistent. I feel like he was more consistent. Like his misses were rare,
Yeah.
and his hits were. He had a better hitting percentage.
I think he knew what he did best.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
like Twins, he would stray out of it, but it was kind of rarer. Like he just this is what I do.
Stallone could only do comedy within his action movies, whereas Schwarzenegger.
That's pushing it.
Right.
What? Tango and Cash?
Yeah, Tango and Cash.
Kurt Russell's carrying the comedic load in that movie. So
Well, occasionally Demolition Man, these little exchanges with Sandra Bullock, but it's probably Sandra Bullock carrying that more than anything.
it's Sandra Bullock
Yeah.
and Rob Schneider providing the comedy in that one.
Dread.
Yeah, he's not good at comedy. He should stay away from all comedy.
I've tried
Stop
to
Her,
defend
My Mama
Oscar
Shoot.
for years, and I can't. It's so bad. But Schwarzenegger's great in Twins. So good in Twins.
Great. I think that one is better than people remember it being.
Yeah. I think he's just like a happier soul. Not that Stallone's like some morose motherfucker, but his movies are always have this like kind of message.
Stallone had aspirations to be a great actor.
Yes, he did.
Arnie knew what he did.
Yeah. You don't catch Arnie writing scripts
No.
or directing movies.
Or going for like, I guess now in his older age, maybe he tries to go for like the rougher, like maybe harder edge, super serious kind of.
Sabotage and shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like you've known what you've done, which is deliver cheesy punny lines while a fucking 12-inch circular saw blade just goes right through a guy.
Yeah.
Or if somehow somebody gets nailed to the wall and just fucking, he'll have a bad pun for that.
It's amazing, but you can speak to both of them because it's amazing they still have endurance. Like, they still endure. Like, they're still doing movies now. And both have, in essence, kind of had a little bit of a renaissance. Yes, you could argue that maybe the quality of their films isn't as great, but The Expendables is fun if you turn your brain off and just enjoy it for what it is. I thought Sabotage is one of the best films Schwarzenegger's ever done. And then this Quiet One.
Have you seen Maggie?
That's the one I was just going to bring up. The Quiet One I liked it a lot.
I've almost been pulled in like 2-3 times to watch it.
Yeah, it's actually good, Matt. It's actually not. It doesn't insult you as a viewer. It doesn't take an easy way out. It's a really hardcore performance by him, and I was so surprised because an understated performance from Schwarzenegger is something I never thought I'd see in my entire life, and I thought he did a nice job in that movie.
But we're here to talk about First Blood.
Yes, we are. That ended up winning.
The win over Copland. Copland got a nice chunk of votes, more than I thought it would.
It was a good film. Yeah.
No, I like the film.
Yeah.
I just didn't think it had much of a chance against Rambo. For Christ's sakes, we'd have to put one of Stallone's biggest if we wanted genuine competition, like one of the Rockies.
Probably.
I think Rocky would take it though.
Yeah. But I don't know because I thought because some of our fans are younger, they would have seen Copland more than First Blood.
Yeah.
So some of our fans are maybe skewing a little bit older.
But
so.
everybody talks about Rambo still. Who talks about Copland?
That's true.
So if you're a younger fan, you may not even heard of Copland.
That's true, I guess.
Yeah, it's just kind of like you do a deep dive on one of those guys' filmographies because there's 4 good actors in it.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
and it's a good film.
It is.
You blew it. That's one of my favorite De Niro lines from that film. Okay, so First Blood, 1981, 82, something
82.
like that. 82. Directed by Ted Kotcheff, which is insane because the same guy directed Weekend at Bernie's. That just blows my mind that he did both of these.
Got range.
Yeah, he does.
It's got range.
He also did North Dallas 40 and he directed some Red Shoe Diary vignettes back in the 90s. You got to work.
Yeah, paycheck is a paycheck.
That's right.
I got a buddy that just got on he's shooting for 5 weeks for a show.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say because he talked ill of it. But he was like, this is not for me. This is whatever. This is targeted somewhere else.
Right.
And he was like, but it's 5 weeks solid work.
Yeah.
All paychecks plus a nice pay. Like, just like, yeah, I get it.
No,
I'm not judging you, man. Nope. Take the paycheck.
Got to pay that rent.
Exactly. You're going to pay a good chunk of your rent for the year.
Yeah.
Off this one job. Congratulations.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the film it's based on a book by David Morrell, and like 4 or 5 people took a run at the script. It was optioned back in the early 70s. And they originally was going to be Lee Marvin as Colonel Troutman.
Ooh,
yeah. Chris Christopherson.
I could see Lee Marvin. Chris Christopherson, 100%.
He's a former airborne ranger. Apparently, I didn't know this about Chris Christopherson. I always think he's like some hippie who smoked and drank and sang country music.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But there's more to this guy.
Well, actually, I got introduced to him. The first time I remembered him was that time travel airline movie. Millennium or something?
Diane Ladd, right? Oh, no.
Could be. I don't know.
Cheryl Ladd. With Cheryl Ladd.
But it's like one of the dudes from Kids in the Hall has got a part in it.
Millennium, you're right.
Yeah. I think that was the first movie I ever saw of Christopherson's that I just got hooked. And I watched that thing. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
But I was like 8, and I was like, this movie's amazing. But Christopherson would have been, perfectly fine in this.
Yeah. He was going to be, John Rambo, and Burt Lancaster was going to be the sheriff. And
I like Dennehy.
Yeah,
I can see Burt Lancaster,
perfect.
But I like Dennehy.
Yeah,
because the storyline escalates so quickly.
Yeah, just
out of nowhere, he's a drifter coming through town.
Yeah,
and Dennehy's
Vietnam veteran.
Yeah,
coming through town.
And the first thing Dennehy says is he's got a American flag on his jacket. Yeah. He's like, wearing a jacket like that with hair or smelling the way you do. People aren't going to basically like you around here.
Right.
So why don't you get the fuck out?
In some fucked up way, he's trying to guide him, but he's intimidating him at the same time. Like he's pushing too hard, trying to get a reaction maybe, but also trying to kind of reinforce his authority. And when I was doing research for this, I read that in the one of the motivations that they had, they didn't have, because the original cut of the movie was 3.5 hours. The original cut was 3 hours.
They trimmed that down
to an hour and a half.
Yeah, to 93 minutes.
Yeah. Stallone wanted to get a copy of the film and burn it. Like he just wanted to kill it and never have it released or anything. But then they cut it down and figured it out and cut it to a minute, which is great because it's a good fucking movie.
It picks up and the pace is perfect.
Yes.
It escalates, but it's not. That's the one thing I take away from it because I probably haven't seen it in like 8 years or something. Yeah. So watching it for this, the pacing, but the build is not like him where he turns into Rambo later on.
No.
Where he's taking on the Russian army by himself.
Right.
He's just one guy and getting through, like, he doesn't kill the first deputy. That guy was shooting him and he falls out because he gets greedy.
He doesn't kill. Nobody dies in the movie except for Galt. And Galt, he never kills anybody in the movie. He stabs people, he hurts people, he doesn't kill anybody.
Well, all the deputies he could have easily killed when they first go up and swarm him. He could have killed them all very easily.
Yep.
But it slowly builds from there. Whereas, like, cut to the Rambo that came out 6 years ago or 8 years ago, where he's literally shooting guys in half, like at the knee and
50
the hip. Yeah, just mowing down 400 or 500 people over the course of the film.
Yeah.
To know that this was the start of that, and it's a very, like, honest film.
Yeah, and this is what breaks my heart sometimes with Stallone and his properties. Like, the first films are always these nice, good, character-driven, well-acted films. Rocky, I feel this way, even though you may not agree, and First Blood is the same thing. It's like these kinds of, it's just these quiet films about the exploration of the human emotion and feeling, because he is a guy who's just walking through town. And it's very much at the time in the 80s when the idea of Vietnam veterans coming back from the war, being damaged, like they were having kids, and the kids were seeing their dads go through PTSD and go through all this. Like, I grew up with a bunch of people whose dads had gone to Vietnam in Virginia, and they would tell me stories about their dads, like waking up screaming at night, those kinds of things. And so you saw this, and then you saw flashes of his memories sparked by that knife when he's being held, or like being in a POW camp, all this stuff which was happening, which was becoming in the public consciousness at the time. And people were wanting to like create these groups that would go and like find these POWs. Like there was this idea that Vietnam still had POWs.
Oh yeah, I remember
somewhere.
that. A friend of mine had the POW MIA flag in his room.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was an
black
interesting
silhouette.
Yeah, exactly. And it just was up on the wall. It was one of those nylon things you get at a record shop or something. I had one I probably had a few different ones for bands and shit.
Right.
And he had one of those. But the weird thing is like, if you didn't know, when Vietnam vets came back, like when they got to the airport, people spit on them.
Yeah,
people yelled at them. They physically assaulted them, mentally assaulted them. Like, they blamed them for the atrocities that our government asked them to do and put them in a fucked up situation instead of empathizing with them, going, that could have been me.
Right.
We as a country were just dicks.
No, we were fucking dicks. There was all those hippies sitting back here.
Yeah.
Fucking like crying and whining and bitching.
Think of the guys that went over there. All of them wanted to do this.
Right. Like they had, like, like they all chose to do this.
They were seeking it out.
There are still some, there are definitely some bad eggs. There are bad eggs all in any situation, but like they weren't active. They were all damaged from the shit they were forced to do by their superiors or by the situation.
Yeah.
Like they threw bags of shit on them too, like dog shit they would throw at these people when they're coming off the plane. Is that how you want to be received when you're a 20-year-old coming back? You didn't even want to fucking go. You were drafted.
Yeah.
You didn't want to fucking go. And then you had to deal with this shit coming back. And so all of that kind of, you can see that percolating under the surface of the film, this anger.
Well, I'm guessing that's the 2 hours they cut.
Yeah.
Is all the backstory of him being abused and having to figure out where he is in society, and like, you know, all his friends are gone. The speech he does at the end is probably reflective of what he went through over the course of the movie.
Yeah.
You could make that story and it'd be interesting, but I think at that time in the 80s, people were kind of Vietnam fatigued.
Yeah, they were.
So I understand the cutting it down and just making it this simpler story as opposed to trying to tell this grandiose.
Well, it was during the run when that stuff came out, because Missing in Action came out that time. Uncommon Valor came out at that time.
Well, that's when they monetized the Vietnam War.
Yes, they did. Yeah. For lack of a better term.
Deer Hunter and all that was trying to tell a story.
Exactly.
And we got to the 80s, and it was just, it's a cash grab.
Yeah.
It's a fucking cash grab. That's all we're going to do. It was just 20 years ago, guys.
Yeah.
Or 10 years ago.
What's a great little thing, too, is Kirk Douglas was originally supposed to be Colonel Troutman. He had signed, and he had shot like a couple of days on set. And then they replaced him with Richard Crenna because Kirk Douglas didn't like the fact that Rambo lived. He wanted Rambo to die at the end of the film, that he didn't want him to get away with it, or, you know. And so when they made the changes in the script to keep him alive, Kirk Douglas removed himself from the film. So it would have been interesting to see Kirk Douglas as Colonel Troutman. It's a great choice.
That's the thing. Watching it now, after it's been so long, he has some very stage actory.
Crenna?
Yeah, tics. Yeah. Where he's delivering lines, and you're like, "There's no audience over there." Yeah. Like that's you're playing to a room that doesn't exist.
Well, it was crazy. He was hired the Friday before the week started. He was hired that Friday, and he had a set PA that was assigned to him that was reading him the lines off camera before he was about to shoot. So he just, in a way, before he got caught up to speed for a couple of weeks, he would have to, like, the guy would read him the lines like in some kind of stage play. So maybe that's why he's doing it that way.
That's all I was watching. It was like, this looks like stage acting. He's pulling it off.
Yes,
I still like him in the part.
Absolutely.
But there are moments where like, that is a weird delivery, man.
Yeah.
That is a weird delivery for this situation, especially the first confrontation he has with Dennehy and the state trooper, I guess that is. It's you're there to assert your authority, and like you back off of it. He's like betraying different emotions that I would anticipate.
Yeah,
but he's overall like the final speech at the end, 100% knows it. Yeah,
but it's a great explanation of what we do to people who come into the military. Like me having served 8 years, like I see people come in and they like try to turn them into these, warriors, these kinds of like killing machines, right? And it was the beginning of the understanding of what we do when they come back to war. It was funny. It was something they didn't talk about a lot in World War II or in Korea. Like we didn't talk about soldiers being integrated back into society. It's when war got more. I don't know if that's right though, Matt. You're the student of history more than me. Like, did war get more vicious? Did war get more painful? Did the guerrilla land war type stuff in Vietnam test the limits of our humanity?
Yeah, I think it's that. You're constantly living in a state of fear.
Yeah.
Because you're in a foreign terrain, something you're not really trained for, with people that just know it like the back of their hands because you're invading their land. Anytime you do that, it's not like Europe where you know this area, you've been to war, you can hire people to advise you. Like there's centuries of history. Yeah. Whereas Eastern and Western civilizations facing off, it's sparse throughout history.
Two completely different mindsets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And we're going in for ideological reasons, and they rightly defend it tooth and nail. Like, fucking, you got to kill me.
Yeah.
You have to kill me. You have to kill all of us.
Right.
Because we're not giving it up.
And the duality of, like, people playing both sides. There's people who are trying to survive playing double agents all over the place. You never know who to trust. Good Morning Vietnam talked about that as well. That was probably one of the last gasps of that Vietnam movie thing.
Yeah,
was Good Morning.
This was still a few years after that, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was like we had outside of the schlocky stuff. They started making for money. Yeah, it's like Vietnam. That's not true because we still had Platoon. We still had
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, Hamburger Hill.
Hamburger Hill. Oh, so good.
There was a ton of them that came out right through then.
Yeah,
yeah,
but it was so fun to watch it again, Matt, because it was like, okay, well, yeah, who's at fault here?
What's the message? That's what I walked away going. I don't understand. Like, I don't know what the message is here.
To me, it seemed that like the sheriff was what people treated the vets like when they came back. There was this kind of like forcing them into situations and trying to control them and trying to put them into these boxes, instead of trying to understand them or trying to treat them with respect and care for what they did, fighting a war they shouldn't have been there fighting.
I agree. But at the same time, the colonel and the military forces that he represents come off as good guys because they stop him.
Right, eventually.
In no way is he ever, or is the military really ever, painted in negative portrayal, except from Dennehy, but we don't like Dennehy as an audience.
Right.
So they walk away unscathed. Yeah. So we're saying the local, like the citizens.
Yeah.
Because that was great, like throughout, like, when they rocket launch the cave opening, or the mine shaft, and the guy, then he comes up and he's like, "You got to fucking dig out his body. We got to know he's dead." And the guy's like, "I got to work at the pharmacy tomorrow because he's National Guard." They're all like locals outside. Everybody knows each other. They all call him Will. They all scream out for Dennehy whenever they're in trouble because he's, you do that by condition. That means he's been the sheriff for a long time.
Yeah,
and everybody just views him as that figure when you call for help.
Right.
It's just over and over and over. So ultimately, the movie is saying that society is to blame for this, like possibly for letting it happen.
I feel like that's what they're trying to say. In the book, originally, he kills a shit ton of the cops. He disembowels that Galt guy that falls out of the helicopter. In the book, he disembowels him with a razor blade in the prison. So it's like,
he takes the razor he's going to cut with,
kicks the disposable and just guts him like a fish. And it's like, no wonder Stallone didn't want to do that shit in the movie. It's like,
that's gory shit.
Because that would ask you, like, whose side are you really on? Because
everybody's at fault at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Although then I think I side with the cops because then this guy is a menace to society at large. So your abuse of power right now is warranted.
Yeah, if a couple of bad words or a couple of inappropriate verbally pushing,
trying to get fingerprints,
causes him to like flip out like that, then he's.
I'm not saying he's not wrong to feel wronged,
right? Of course,
but
it doesn't mean you start killing everybody.
You just you go roadhouse on the entire town and all its populace. That's great, though, at the ending, like all the shit we've given other movies when Dennehy somehow gets a PA for the entire town and just like, everybody stay indoors. And it's just like, I haven't been to many small towns that have a PA where everybody hears it.
Right.
Because usually if it is a small town, people live in the sticks quite a bit.
That's right on the outskirts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I don't know about your PA. My favorite was when the truck is coming, so he's got the M60 or whatever it is, and he's coming across the bridge, and the cops have created a barricade, and how do they have a stockpile of M16s?
Yeah,
as a sheriff's
in a small town.
Now I understand because the military sells off to local, police departments, which is, I don't know if they should have military-grade equipment. It's a discussion for a different day.
That's right.
But there's numerous over there that have gotten all this surplus stuff. So I could see that happening today. But in 1982, they just have a cache of 50 M16s.
Yeah.
But anyway, all these cops are set up, and they're firing as he's getting close. They're set up.
Yeah.
They only get 4 shots that you can tell in the windshield.
Right.
So, like, dude, there's 10 of you guys, 12 of you guys out here. Nobody else could hit the windshield?
Maybe they're not trained to use the weapon.
You have 200-300 yards where you clear line of sight. I got them lined up, and it's semi-automatic.
Yeah.
Maybe you can even flip a switch if it is military grade and go fully automatic.
Right.
And my favorite was one of them was in the passenger. He missed by like 4 feet. And be like, you're terrible. I saw that. I was like, that dude should be fired because you missed by so much. You had fucking 45 seconds to line up a straight shot, and you missed by 4 feet. You're fucking brutal,
But
man.
I think that is a great point, Matt, you bring up, because I think that's why the movie works. If you put it in a small town, the incompetence of the deputies makes sense.
It does.
Because what would they wouldn't possibly have the ability to understand how to handle someone like this who's a trained killing machine.
But I love that he just barrels through, and it's not like they all die.
No.
He keeps moving on. He doesn't turn into this. And it's great continuity errors in that scene because they keep going from Stallone's perspective in the cab looking out at certain points. There's no bullet holes.
Oh, right.
And if they cut back to, and you can make out that it's Stallone, there's bullet holes. But then when they drive through the gas station, no bullet holes again. And that's in 30 seconds. It's like bing, 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 bing. And then scene's over, back to bullet holes.
It's an interesting cast, too. You mentioned Dennehy, Richard Crowe, we talked about Richard Crowe, Stallone.
Caruso.
David Caruso, back when he was playing those whiny, smarmy little guys.
But he was the one you liked the most.
Yes, because he was trying to fight for John Rambo, saying we're treating him badly.
Yeah.
We're not doing good by this guy, and everybody tried to step on him, right? Because he's played as the nerdy guy. It's this macho shit.
But there's also like a weird delivery they must have cut out when he says like. When they find out over the radio that he's a decorated war hero Green Beret.
Yeah.
And Caruso's like, see, I told you. And you're like, I don't remember you ever making a big stand other than guys who were doing something wrong here.
Yeah.
It's like this weird boasting of like, I fucking told you guys.
But then the counter is great that when Galt falls out and Caruso says some shit about him offhandedly that's like disrespectful. The fact that he grabs, Dennehy Dennehy is literally a bear of a man.
Yeah.
He just grabs him, yanks him over, and slaps the fucking hat off him and goes, "Do you see this guy? This guy was," he just goes off and says how he was doing stuff when he was still shitting in his diapers or whatever. And it's just it's what's great about the movie is you have these. It's real subtle, these juxtapositions of macho versus intelligence, like all this kind of stuff. Then like why? Then it's like a dick measuring contest.
Yeah.
Stallone at any point can stop because he is clearly in command, and the fact that he goes full jungle, like he's killing boars to live and shit, like full jungle.
I know. He was in the jungle for what, 6 hours?
6 hours.
Not even.
This motherfucker's killing boars.
It's just
setting up camp.
Set up like it's Predator, and he's just waiting, and then boar comes through.
Yeah.
And are boars indigenous to the Pacific Northwest?
I did not do that research for
I
this
have no
podcast,
idea.
man. I have no idea.
It's one of those you could sell me on, because every once again you'll hear a story be like, oh, dude, the boars down here are just crazy. We kill them, and nobody has any remorse. Like even the most bleeding hearts of like,
boars are crazy, man.
Yeah, and they fuck like bunnies. So there's always like where there's 2, there's 12 in no time, and where there's 12, there's fucking 60. And it's just brutal.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. There's a lot of great lines in the movie. I think it's why the movie endures too. It has great lines. The body bag line is great from Richard Crenna. The stuff that Stallone says, they drew first blood, not me, that. And then his breakdown at the end is really one of the best dramatic moments that you'll ever see from Stallone. And he is walking that tightrope, that edge to being melodramatic. And I think he doesn't cross the line for me. If he did for you in retrospect, I understand that.
When his voice goes high-pitched is when it gets schmaltzy for me. Just like, But the problem I have with that, at least internally, is when I watch it, I genuinely believe that Stallone is lost in the emotion of that moment.
Yes, he is.
I don't think he's falsely acting it. He's selling it. It just I'm not 100% buying.
That's a good point, Matt.
Yeah. I know that is one of the best. His I'm sure he looks at that and is severely proud.
Yes,
as he should be, because he brought himself to a point where he believes like the shoebox blowing up.
Yeah.
he was selling that so much. It was like, I believe that you were there.
Yeah.
It's just when his voice just keeps going high pitched, and it would take me out of the moment, and just not buying 100%. I don't know why.
So
subjective.
So when he got his hands to his eyes and he's
yeah,
you don't buy that.
It's weird, but
Gotcha.
it's like the where he goes, it's such a almost a toddler delivery.
So it's so real that it's not acting anymore, and that it's not a controlled delivery, so that you would believe it within the.
I don't know. I can't
Okay.
encapsulate because I think that's undercutting what he's doing, and I don't want to do that.
No, I think that's fair though. As an actor, like there you see actors who go too far. Like you see it in class, or you'll see it in plays or whatever, and they get lost in the moment. There's a line you're walking when you're doing a really good performance that you're aware of where you're at, but you're still lost in the emotion. You can still be lost in the emotion. You just got to be aware of where you're at. So the delivery is important of what you're doing. You can still feel everything you're feeling. You just have to respect the parameters that you're in.
It's almost out of body at times.
Right. And I think that's fair what you're saying. Maybe he went so deep into it, but for me, I went with him because I just liked it, and because it's not something I expected from Stallone. It's not a color I expected from him. And still don't expect.
It's more vulnerable than he's ever been.
Yes, agreed.
Can't think of another one where he just basically opens himself up and shows his frailty.
Yeah, I think just the scene in Rocky Balboa when he says to Paulie, like the stuff that's still inside when he starts to remember Adrian. And he starts to cry. I think that's the only other time I've ever seen him really be knee deep in the vulnerability of a moment and be so incredibly powerful and believable in that. And I think that's why I love those moments from him, because it's so rare that when he does it, he kind of, for me, he nails it. What did you think about the violence and the way it all ended up as the movie went along?
It was fine. It was a nice progression, a nice build.
Yeah.
It doesn't get too fantastical. I love that he still takes the guerrilla tactics back into the town as he's shooting out the power system to shut down all the lights. That's brilliant. And then creating the distraction in the apparently circus ammunition shop. That place was weird. From the outside, like I would not have been surprised if they had the same wallpaper as Circus does.
Yeah, right.
In like certain areas, like I did from the outside, it's like there's a shitload of neon for a wood building that has like a fucking country or like outdoorsy feel.
Yeah,
it was such a weird juxtaposition. But anyway, that distraction, and then like Dennehy set up with over the skylight.
Yeah,
just waiting for him, and Stallone taking him down and him falling through, and they're like it's a great progression throughout.
Yeah. He's not a good guy, Dennehy. Like
no, he's a shitheel from moment one to moment final.
One of the things they cut out of the movie is that he's motivated to do it because he's a Korean War vet.
And he didn't.
He didn't get respect or whatever when he came back, and the fact that they're making such a huge deal about Vietnam vets is the undercurrent that he has, is his anger towards Rambo. But I like it.
Perfect sense.
Yeah, it does. But I like it that you don't need it. Like he is just angry.
If they could have peppered it in, I guess it would have been forced because his motivation the entire time was just catching Rambo.
Yeah,
and he doesn't deviate from that. I guess, if you're cramming that in, because he doesn't really give much exposition until the end,
right? And
even that's slim.
Yeah.
But he wears his heart on his sleeve. He kind of lets you know where you stand at all times.
Yeah, I wonder what it's like for cops like that to watch that, or sheriffs, to watch that, who see things like that, who encounter drifters in their towns, and they don't have a positive experience with them. What it's like to watch themselves on screen like that, portrayed like that. I always think about that, like how people take that, because we get lost in it, be like, fuck that guy, fuck him, yeah, good, but like it's like. Well,
yeah, but you're also like the shepherd of this flock on some level, of a small town sheriff.
You have to.
Everybody knows you. Mm-hmm. They come running to you when you need help. It's a different dynamic than it is in a big city where they're anonymous, and so are we.
Yeah.
So nobody knows anybody, whereas if everybody knows each other's names, everybody's accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different dynamic. From his perspective, like I get it. Like you could be bad news, and maybe there's this history there, like a drifter came through a few years ago, or a town 2 towns over,
right,
and did something really bad. So now everybody's just wary of it, and the town collectively probably maybe feels the same as the sheriff. Yeah,
and I think in watching it again in retrospect, I kind of take a little less reasoning. I used to be really on the side of Rambo, Stallone's character, but like as I watch it now in retrospect, I see that there are holes in his behavior and in his logic in the situation that escalates the situation unnecessarily.
Yeah,
and so. And before, where I was like, well, he's got stuff going on. Now it's like, well, no, he gave some signs that were a little unsettling when he goes to visit, the mother, and he has the picture, and you can tell he's carrying a lot of shit wherever he's going, and he's just waiting for someone to light that switch, or light the match and set him on fire. And so it's all already just simmering underneath, So he's not without blame, and he's not without fault.
No.
And he's got considerably more in retrospect than I remember when I watched it before.
Does a copy of the 3.5 hours still exist?
No.
It's all gone?
I wish it did. No,
Yeah.
there are deleted scenes that are on some of the Blu-rays or DVD versions that have come out, but there's nothing that's the whole cut. I would have loved to have seen a 3.5 cut just to see what they did with it.
Yeah, to see where the characters go.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they succeeded really well at an hour and 33, so
Absolutely.
maybe they trimmed just all the fat.
Yeah, they probably really did.
Probably.
I mean, Stallone had issues with it, so. All right, well, is that anything else you want to say about it?
No, that's it. That was a good Thunderdome. Good choice by the fans.
Yes,
if you're listening to this and you haven't voted for Thunderdome, you go on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the top 10 podcast, and that's with the number 10.
Right.
And if you want to email the show, that is top10podcast@gmail.com.
All spelled out.
All spelled out.
Right. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Top 10 Show. On Instagram's at Top 10 Podcast. Follow Matt at Matt Nost. Follow me at The Roca Says. And we will talk to you all next time.
Bye-bye.